Hello, folks, and welcome to Dicey Banter, the TTRPG Talk Show where we talk to all the makers and shakers within the tabletop space and having some fun with it every now and then. And with that, before we get into all of the fun, I and this channel stand against genocide and ethnic cleansing and support all the oppressed peoples of the world struggling against injustice, imperialism, and colonization. Free DRC, free Sudan, and free Palestine. With that, hello everybody. I'm Valiant Dorian. I use him his pronouns. I am the host of Dicey Banter, and you can find me all on the internet at Valiant Dorian or also SpiritBear. Please enjoy that lovely treasure hunt I just set you on. And tonight, I have the distinct pleasure of chatting with our amazing guests, Purna and Arman of Weave Storytelling Games. Folks, please introduce yourself to the audience here.
Hello, I am Arman. My pronouns are he, him. I am one half of Weave Games, a game designer and pop culture critic. Over to you, Purna.
Thank you. And as Arman said, I am Purna M. My pronouns are she, her. And we are so indie that we are an outfit based in India. Um, Arman, Arman and I are the two halves that currently make up Weave Storytelling Games, as well said. Both of us wear multiple hats in the TTRPG space. The ones that I wear are game designer, writer, editor, process management consultant, and occasional and more frequently as of late AP performer.
And I personally love to hear it. But we're here to talk about we storytelling games, and we're here to talk about game design. And I would like to shout out Love is on the Cards, which is a TTRPG that lets you build your own rom com with several expansions upcoming, including solo gaming, polyamory, mini campaigns, and more. Please use exclamation point love in chat to learn more and support this game by We Storytelling Games. And if you're enjoying tonight's Dicey Banter, please consider donating and leaving us a tip. The funds raised will be used to tip myself and our guests. And to show our appreciation, please use exclamation point donate in chat to support us. And with that, there's no better way to begin than by beginning. So let us begin with this gorgeous, gorgeous Dicey Banter with We Storytelling Games. Alrighty, folks. You are both incredible game designers, wearers of many hats in a tabletop space, APs, process management, game design, narrative design, so many cool things. I want to know where this all started. How did the both of you get into the TTRPG hobby?
I I began with Critical Role.
Ah,
Although even
yes.
earlier than that, I was into this little game called Baldur's Gate 2, um, which introduced
Mm-hmm.
me to D&D before I knew D&D even existed. So years later, when Critical Role was playing, I was like, "Oh my God, they're playing the Baldur's Gate 2 game!"
Very
And
topical and relatable. You might have heard
anyway,
of it.
yes. So it was a Critical Role fan group that invited me to my first time actually playing a TTRPG,
Mm.
and that group has been wonderful and welcoming and encouraging me to try a whole bunch of different TTRPGs as well as begin game mastering. I'm still playing with that group today and having a ball doing it.
That is so cute that y'all are still together after all this time, and a lot of folks are attached to Critical as many of their origin stories, such as TTRPG space. But what about you, Purna? How did you get into the hobby?
Um, well, I had moved abroad to study, and
Mm-hmm.
it was, I think, a key reason why I
Mm-hmm.
had access to people who play TTRPGs because
Yeah.
it's not really a thing that you just come across
Mm.
in even in circles our age in India
Mm-hmm.
yet. Um, so I was yeah, and my friend said, I think you might enjoy it. It seems like something that you would get into, and I was initially quite nervous, but he made me watch Oxventure's initial forays into D&D and
Mm.
TTRPG APs, and if you don't know Oxventure, check them out. They're a really cool APing group, and they when they started, what was really helpful, I think, was I saw their first episode, the one where Johnny Chiodini, who was running the game, was the only one who
Mm.
really knew what was going on, and everybody else was sort of like, "What is a character sheet?" And I don't know what these numbers mean. And I think seeing people who regularly
Mm.
create YouTube content and are used to speaking publicly still also falter with things that everybody else seems to know everything about was
Mm-hmm.
really helpful in and and felt like something I could do. And yeah, so I started playing D&D. We started doing a bunch of Call of Cthulhu one shots, and a few years later I um, happened to get back in touch with
Mm.
Banana Chan, who I happened to go to primary school with.
Yeah, deep,
um,
deep lore, a Dicey Banter exclusive. Tell us more about that.
yeah, and we were hanging out, and I knew at the time, sort of in the way that you do about people that like you kind of grew up with but aren't
Mm.
regularly in touch with. Like I knew that they were into games and creating
Mm.
games and board games and stuff, but I really had no concept of who they were in the
Yeah.
TTRPG space. And I feel more about this later, but it's a useful thing, not knowing who people are. Anyway, so and I was just hanging out with them, having grabbing lunch, and and they were like, "Oh, so are you playing any interesting games? Like, what are you into
Mm.
recently?" And I was, "Oh, have you heard of D&D?" And Banana Chan, newsflash, had heard of TTRPGs and D&D. Um, and yeah, so we just got to talking about how much there is in the indie TTRPG space, which,
Mm.
uh, as someone in the industry, Banana Chan was uniquely qualified to tell me about.
Mm.
And also told me how the barrier to entry is pretty low in terms of um, if you are someone who already likes to write. And I was at the
Yeah.
time exploring career options outside of what I have been trained to do, which is economics and soul crushing. So I wanted to do something else. Um, and yeah, so I decided to try my hand at writing. They
Mm-hmm.
also advise that a lot of people put up calls for TTRPG game designers and writers and
Yeah.
things on Twitter. So after about 10 years of being on Twitter, I was finally active on Twitter, and then all of this stuff. So yeah, that's how I kind of got started. And I think I have to mention this because it's so crucial that,
Mm-hmm.
and to a bunch of stuff that I'm sure we're going to get into, but the first time I actually felt like a legitimate part of the industry
Yeah.
was when I went to Big Bad Con in 2022. And when I went there and as a POC scholar, um,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone kind of validating your presence there is was a really positive experience for me, and I know lots of people who have had the same experience. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, definitely, if you can find your community and if you can make sure that the community that you find is a safe space, then hold on to it for dear life.
Absolutely. What an incredible origin stories and deep, deep lore we are unearthing here on Dicey Banter. We kind of heard a little bit then about how you've entered the foray into game design, Bruna, with your link with Banana Chan Games, which is wild to hear. Um and I wanted to ask the both of you, starting with Armand, how did you make that leap then from playing and game mastering to being a game designer and making a career out of it and taking that big step into game design as a career path.
Well, when you GM, there's a lot of homebrew stuff that goes into things. I
Mm,
especially love just messing about with rules, taking what's given, taking a system and pushing it to its limits, or
mm,
breaking the limits if need be, if everyone at the table agrees.
yeah.
Um, and I did that for a long time. Writing my own stories or messing about with the systems, adding in new systems here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years ago, I had done enough of that to um, basically try and design my own game from scratch.
All right.
It was a collaboration with a friend. We had a TTRPG event here in Bangalore,
Mm,
and my friend was just I can't think of what game to run. I don't quite want to run D&D, so
mm.
we made COBOL. Which is basically a competitive sports game about throwing kobolds across a field into your opponent's goals. And the best part is the field is trapped with mud pits and fire traps and when once you toss a kobold, it can run away from the goal if it manages to hit the ground before that. Um,
If you want to know more, type exclamation what into the
Use
chat.
use exclamation point kobold to get more information about this incredibly cool game. That- Tell us more. So you made kobold, and you decided
Coball,
from
I should
there
say. KO-BALL. Exclamation.
Cobalt. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exclamation point Cobalt. I
Yeah,
correct
that's important.
myself. That is very important. I need folks to find that game and play it post haste. So you made this game with a friend on for fun to try out and do a new system. What clicked then? What made you go, yeah, I want to do this for career for and find more opportunities?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I will be honest, if this never turns out to be profitable, I will still be making games for as long as my fingers can touch the keyboard. It's just it is fun putting things down, and
Mhm,
getting to sell it is just an extra bonus. What really took me to the next step though were, well, some of them
mhm,
were game jams, which
mhm.
are very encouraging to people who just want to mess about and have some fun. But there was also Purna, who we basically used our first game creations as a roundabout way of flirting with each other.
Bruno, would you like to elaborate on that?
Breaking news. Um, yeah, no, we had just started going out, and we, I was already considering submitting something for Pocket Quest last year,
Mm,
and it the theme was space, and I had this seed of an idea, and
mm.
so in I don't know if you know this, but this is classic way of picking up someone in the TTRPG
Oh, please do tell.
realm, which is hey, do you want to make a game with me? And so that's
I thought you'd never ask.
yeah, that's what happened.
That is so
I
cute.
should clarify that's not how we started going out, but that is how we started making games
Mm,
together. And no, it was really fun. We very quickly discovered that we have something in common in terms of our approach to game design as well,
mm,
which is that we both enjoy some silliness and also a very strong narrative focus. Hence, we have
mm.
storytelling games.
That is we will touch upon what inspired the both of you to begin this new outfit together and begin we storytelling games. But other than your attachment to and link to Banana Chan games, what kind of propelled you, Purna, to take that leap into game design?
Like many people, I think people felt it more during the pandemic, but I
Mm,
think it was going something in the air even before that. That I don't know anyone of our generation that wasn't
mm.
questioning what it is they were doing
Yeah, oh
in
yeah.
terms of their job and their career, and just sort of waking up to this idea of maybe what you do for a living should bring you some joy. Um,
Yeah.
And now, that was season one. Obviously, season two now is how do I pay the bills doing
Oh,
what I enjoy. But
mm-hmm.
it's that's a from the next episode.
The next
Tune
episode, we
in.
talk about
We
sustainability
talk
in
about
a career in
sustainability and
TTRPGs.
TTRP. And in fact, this is something that I also talked about last year on my Big Bad Online panel,
Mm-hmm.
shifting careers from something else to TTRPGs,
Mm.
and that's up on YouTube. I will give Val the link if for
And
that
it
to
will
be
pop up right now.
um, but yeah, so for a lot of people, um, it's virtually impossible to have TTRPGs as your sole thing. So I'm
Mm,
still trying to find a balance um, between that. But honestly, around 2020, I was just really
mm,
waiting to find something that brought me joy that I could do for a living. And writing stories and helping other people craft their own stories through games was a big part of what I have discovered I
mm.
enjoy. I also enjoy specific and very niche aspects of admin, but that's what the process management thing is.
And
Episode 3 on Val talks to Purna endlessly.
oh no, I will find any and every excuse to chat with you, Purna. Do not even listen. I said this to Taylor. I'll say it to you too. You're always welcome onto Dicey Banter to talk about all sorts of things. But yeah, that's like first off, being able to find passion and joy in a current state of affairs, shall we just say, gestures to the entirety of the world, is deeply meaningful and impactful, I think. And finding that joy in game design does indeed matter. But you both have taken the next step in the game design journey, which is starting Weave storytelling games. And I want to know more about what moved the both of you to take that step to go, yes, we both like making games together. We have very similar tastes. Let's take the leap. Let's make a game design outfit. We storytelling games. Tell me, how did the origin story happen? What inspired it?
Well, the simplest version of that story is that Purna made the logo and I fell in love with it immediately. And I'm like, okay, that's it. This is who we are now.
Listen, it's love at logo sight.
Uh huh.
So, kind of during the first game that we've made,
Mm-hmm.
A Stitch in Time, we sort of were thinking, what is our identity in the
Mm.
creative space, and so at that time, we would refer to each other in terms of the work versions of us as the
Mm-hmm.
wordsmith and the empoweress. So
Mm.
and so that's how we got wordsmith and empoweress, and then
Oh.
the the Latin phrase alia iacta est, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the original one. Yeah, the die is cast.
The die
Um,
is cast.
we have a
Um,
slightly modified version of that, which is Alea Vici Est, which is I won the gamble.
That is
so
deep lore. I love this. Continue, Purna.
so if you enjoy escape rooms and weird Easter eggs, I'm sure you'll enjoy the story behind our logo, which is we wanted to spell out a thing that wasn't just we make games. So we were like, what can we do? Oh, I know, Latin, because that's what cool kids do. Um, and and also gives you a clue in case you couldn't already tell or don't know us personally
Mhm.
that we are together.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that, and it is like a huge venture to take together, as coworkers, as colleagues, let alone partners, right? Into game designing games. But you've made a couple of games now. You've made a Stitch in Time, and now you've made Love is on the Cards. Expansions imminent, I should say. I'm looking at the audience. Please go and support these games. The links will be in chat. And I know it's just the first two games. You have plenty of plans for Weave storytelling games, but I want to know at this juncture, what do you both believe is core to a Weave storytelling game? What is core to the both of you as your identity within this outfit?
So, yeah, we're very early in our process. We've only got like
Mm.
2.5 games out so far. Half, the half if you count our expansion. But I think one of the things that we really want to do in our games is make it welcoming for newcomers,
Mm.
um, people who've never played TTRPGs before. Both of
Yeah.
our games don't require too much to keep track of. You need a deck of playing
Mm.
cards, and um, there's a and for a Stitch in Time, you might need dice, but we also recommend plenty places you can find them online.
Mhm.
And yeah, we want to make it simple for people to tell their stories.
Mm.
Um, and also, an important part of a Weave game, or at least it has been our record so far, is that we
Mhm.
make these games to flirt shamelessly with each other. A Stitch in Time is a letter writing game between two people. And Purna introduced this idea by saying, "Hey, do you want to make a letter writing game with me? Write letters back and forth?" And I'm like, "That sounds great." Uh, it combines all our interests, and of course, we've got "Love Is on the Cards," which is as about as romantic as a game can get. Um, I
Sure.
think, yeah, but I'm sure Purna has um, other stuff to say regarding what makes a Reeve game. So I will pass things on over to her.
Yeah. Tell me, Bruno, what do you think?
I agree that, you know, I think having come from a place where, or being based in a place where
Mhm.
games in general have not been that accessible to most of the population,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty important to both of us um, to be able to help people tell stories. Of
Mm.
course, you know, there are games like Love is on the Cards where you get to insert yourself into a story where you don't necessarily see people who look like you or have your
Mm.
lived experience in a story that is, yeah, that is made for the system and not for you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of games, both video games, TTRPGs, and
Mm.
to some extent board games as well, especially the multiple session ones, have for a long time now been themed around subversion and fighting the
Mm.
power. And so
Yeah.
something that gives people a sense of agency over their own narrative is always going to be a good thing. And we want to put
Yeah.
more of that out there. And I think that also, as Armand said, having to get a whole bunch of stuff to
Mhm.
play a game, especially as people in our 30s who it's hard enough to coordinate with one person to play a
Yeah.
game and then like trying to figure out how to play with a whole bunch of people. I think
Yeah.
that's something that's always really we always have at the back of our minds that
Mm.
if there is a game that we want to make under the Weave banner, then it has to be something that's easy to pick up,
Mhm.
that's not intimidating for someone in their first foray or
Mhm.
one of the first games that they're playing in the TTRPG land, but also just something that doesn't take more executive function than it has to out of
Yeah.
our already collective limited supply.
No, I love that because that's one of the things and the conversation points of making the TTRPG space more open and lowering the threshold for newcomers to come in. That's always been a huge topic of discussion. not to be biased to anything, but as someone who has played Love is on the Cards twice, I can say that the game is very, very easy to pick up. It is very, very accessible. And I can definitely agree that that's a huge cornerstone of the game. Um, and to continue to sing your praises, I do want to ask like a pretty deep, meaningful question before I gush more about Love is on the Cards. And I wanted to ask both of you. You've wear many hats in the TTRPG space. You've impacted the community in such incredible, substantial ways. Borna through many of your contributions in your writing and game design, and working with so many incredible folks. Same thing with you, Aman, being an incredible game designer, narrative designer, GM, building up the communities in India. I wanted to ask the both of you, what do you want your impact in the TTRPG space to look like? What do you want your legacy to be?
Um, my impact in the games industry, that is a tricky question, but
Hmm.
I think one thing I want to do is encourage people to make really weird, dumb, silly games.
Okay.
Um, I want every time someone makes just a dumb, silly, fun game, it's in I have been encouraged by that. I remember
Mm.
when I was first reading Terry Pratchett and that style of writing, and I was all,
Mm.
wait, you can just write like this. You can actually have fun with it. And there have been many games that have made me feel the same.
Yeah.
Um, so I would like people to say any weird concept you have, go for it. Just it. TTRPGs are games are easy to, well, I say relatively easy to design and get into.
Yeah.
Perfecting it is a little harder, but those first steps are actually pretty easy. Take an idea and run with it, and
Hmm.
make ridiculous mechanics for something that no one would think to measure narratively.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that I want more creators and more weird games.
I love that. A great thing to aspire to. What about you, Bruna? What do you want your legacy to be?
What I want my legacy to be in the TTRPG space versus what I want Weave storytelling games
Mm.
to represent are two sort of similar but distinct things. With Weave, I would like to create games with my partner which clearly have a lot of love baked into them, which have a lot
Mm.
of like, uh, do you want to build a story with someone,
Mm.
whether it is your partner, whether it is a friend that you miss that is like 1,000 miles away for whatever reason, um, whether it is your kid or your parent, and
Yeah.
like someone that you don't necessarily know how to talk about things outside of the everyday. And
Mm.
so many people at the moment are so very done with everyday conversations. Like how
Yeah.
many times can you be interested in a conversation about, so what should we make for dinner? Like, I don't know, maybe there are superheroes like that out there, but I'm not one of those. And
Mm.
so to keep life interesting, I think it's fun to create stories together. And
Yeah.
that's true in all relationships. And I think that's something that Weave Games can help with. There are a bunch of game design ideas that we have, as you said, some of which we are happy to talk about, some of which we want to wait and actually do more work on before we talk about. But for me personally, I really enjoy solving problems or
Hmm.
helping friends out, and it is something I get a lot of joy from. And I think that if I can do that for the wider community, um,
Hmm.
that would be something that I would really appreciate. I, of course, earning money from this line of work is a struggle in the
Hmm.
best of times. So one might question, why some of the things that I want to do, I'm not really thinking about what the pay structure would look like or things like this.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some resources I believe should be free. And
Yeah.
so if there are easy fixes like the TTRPG content calendar that we released recently, and it was up on Rascal News as to
Mm-hmm.
how to go about adding your podcast or AP or show or whatever it is to that calendar, everyone deserves to have some visibility in on an equal footing that doesn't
Yeah.
involve having a large following on a social media platform that
Mm.
changes the rules every week.
Yeah.
So, like small fixes like this, if I can do, then I'm always happy to do them. Um, I would also like my legacy to be one of learning. So, if there's something where something has been a particular way for a long time and
Mm-hmm.
it is problematic, and I haven't known about it because those of us who, for whatever algorithm reasons, don't see all of the TTRPG discourse out there,
Yeah.
might not know what people are talking about a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think if there is something that is hurting a
Mm-hmm.
particular subsection of the community, um, then I am always very happy to be informed about it, even if that's
Mm.
just somebody sending me a link and saying, by the way, this is what's going down.
Mm.
Um, and so I think that sort of sense of being open to learning
Mm.
um, is also something that I would, being open in general, I think is a good idea
Yeah.
because that's part of the reason why people who might want to get into playing TTRPGs don't necessarily, because
Yeah.
it's too overwhelming to learn everything that's going on and that has gone on.
Yes.
So, one thing you could do is obviously play rules light, easy to pick up games. We make
Mm.
some if you're interested. But if but if you but if not, then there should be that sense of you are always welcome to ask questions. You're always
Mm.
welcome to not be an expert on the deep lore of every popular game out
Yes.
there. And so I would like my legacy to be one of kindness, of learning, and of being a welcoming presence in the space.
And I think those are things you 100% definitely exude, both you and Arman. And to gush about y'all even further beyond your hopes and dreams for your legacies, I would love to gush more about your game Love is on the Cards. As I've mentioned before, dear darling viewers, Love is on the Cards is a TTRPG where you get to make your very own rom com in a duet setting. Pick yourself, your partner, with your friend, family member, whoever, and plan a gorgeous rom com together. And I want to ask the both of you about more about this gorgeous, gorgeous game. I'm totally not biased as someone who's played this twice, but what inspired Love Is on the Cards? I mean, you've just made Stitch in Time. Why the pivot to a rom com duet game?
Well, one of the things is that we were living out a fairly standard, well, not standard, but we were living out a rom com ourselves.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah.
Life
To cut
imitates art. Art
a
imitates
little
life.
bit, yeah. To cut a bit of a long story short, we met through a minor case of mistaken identity. We had a whirlwind
Oh.
romance, and we had rom coms on the brain. And the Christmas holidays were coming up, and
Mm,
Purna was just all, I want to make a holiday rom com game, and we are going to do this. And I was like, yeah, nope, that sounds great. I am all in. This sounds like fun. So we did incredible amounts of very studious research of watching a lot of romantic comedies.
oh, such grueling
Uh,
work.
I know
Such
we were
s-
meticulous. Uh,
meticulous research. Uh-huh.
Sitting
Mm-hmm.
down with our notebooks as we decried the choices of various characters as they kept
Ah.
making them over and over and over again. Um, yeah, and yeah, we figured, and we both love. We're both a big fan of the Christmas holidays, even though we've softened the game up enough to make it applicable to all holidays, or for many of
Mm,
the players that we've seen, none of the holidays. Um, the heart of that is still kind of there. Um,
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, we noticed that a lot of rom-coms followed a certain formula,
Mm-hmm.
um, and obviously the formula that we went with is not applicable to all rom-coms, but enough that it you get a similar feel for a movie once you're done telling your story. We
Yeah.
have seen, including the two of yours, a bunch of romantic comedies, about almost 20 at this point,
Mm-hmm.
from a lot of different players, and no two have been the same. Even though they are following a very strict structure of storytelling, which has been
Yeah.
fascinating to see.
That is so incredibly cool. Purna, do you have anything to add about the process or inspiration of working on Love is on the Cards?
Um, yeah, I think I started with. It kind of depends on where you want to go and where you end up. So I started with I want to manifest my own Christmas rom com, and then over time
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey, I want to make a Christmas rom com game, and then eventually the game part got louder and louder. Yeah, so we both are fans of Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
and just the genre of movies that spring up like little mushrooms every year, new reviews, and we were really enjoying uh, watching them as well because
Mm-hmm.
obviously Christmas marketing starts in September.
Yes.
And so we were also kind of thinking about the different ways in which you could adapt holiday rom com for other settings, and just
Mhm.
discussing this entire representation in media matters kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
like I was saying earlier, having a structure that lets you insert yourself in a story that you don't normally get to see someone like you or off your lived experience in
Mm-hmm.
is so important. And that's what we decided to do with this game. So, like Armand said, there are a whole bunch of really cool stories that we saw people telling. Um, and honestly, if you don't want to center it
Mm-hmm.
around Christmas, that's fair. It was mostly like it currently looks like it is centered around Christmas because it was an homage to that particular subgenre. But
Yeah.
it does allow for you to pick any event or ignore major events or fests entirely if that's not your thing. The main thing is just to enjoy the tropes that you see in a lot of rom-coms.
Oh, and it's fun. As someone who's played the game, it is the prompts get you going, the cards deal you the hand of fate, and you just roll with it. And speaking on the playing cards and the storytelling prompts, these are very specific systems that you've chosen for this game. And I wanted to ask, from a game design standpoint, why did you choose this specific system for the game?
So Armand's always the person who has to read the rules of any game, TTRPG, board game, whatever, and then explain it to the people with a shorter attention span or with just like
Thank you for your service,
cannot
Armand.
do it. Exactly. He is a pro GM. So yeah, so but for someone like me, I can't read like chapters of
Mm,
mechanics at one go. So if I want to play a game and it's a new game and I want to pick up something where I'm like ADHD brain wants something new and shiny,
yeah.
I will always go for the thing that looks rules light, that looks like that it's easy to pick up and to, especially because the majority of people that I grew up with and majority of my friends from
Mhm.
outside of TTRPG circles, like they just don't. mm, Half of them don't know what TTRPGs are, and if they do, then their only frame of reference is what they have seen of D&D in on American TV or in
Yeah.
American movies.
Yeah.
And so, um, being able to say, "Would you like to play a game?" It's gonna take probably 2 or 3 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
the closest frame of reference a lot of people will have is Mafia. So to be able to say this is kind of, let's play this thing. I think that, yeah, I think that's kind of what made us choose things that were really accessible. So
Yeah.
most people, especially in India, will have a deck of playing cards at home, and like as Armand said, both of these things are very easy to find free versions of online, even if
Mm.
you don't have the physical thing at home. So there are a lot of free apps for rolling die. You can just literally type roll a d20 into Google and it does it for
Yeah.
you. So it's one of those things where you don't need people to spend a lot of money to enjoy your game.
Yeah.
And you know, as is the common joke, like we are all passing the same 20 bucks along to each other because all the money in the world to spend on the game itself, of course, you
Hmm.
want to pay for because you want to respect the work that's gone into it. But the shipping, I don't want to pay so much shipping.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Mm.
Yep. 100%.
There's a limited number of kidneys I have.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
Yeah.
What about you, Arman? Why the choice?
So, I will say from a game design perspective, especially if for all you neurodivergent creators out there, making a game where you have to fill in a lot of tables is a very helpful choice to make. You have a set goal of things you need to do. You're like, okay, I've got. So the deck of cards we went with because it's already got the suit there. It's got hearts. Most people have a deck of playing cards.
Hmm.
There's enough randomness in there to make no two games the same twice. And yeah, I began to we began to really enjoy the idea of duality. Like you've got the romantic stuff, but that's always
Mm.
equally balanced out by the disasters in this game. Even though we definitely lean towards a happy ending with this,
Yeah.
there's some good sides and bad sides, and each suit has 13 cards. We made tables with where we had to fill in 13 prompts, knowing when to end it, knowing exactly how much work we had to do early on is
Hmm.
extremely helpful. It
Oh,
makes games a lot easier to write when you've got like a set limit in mind.
yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. Fun, fun thing you get also on Dicey Banter game design tips. Have a structure, have a structure and some limits on, and see what your creativity conjures. Love
Mhm.
it.
we're making a list. We're checking it
Checking it
twice. We're
twice.
checking it thrice. Checking it more because we're neurodivergent.
Me. Listen, I can talk all day about how Perda has saved my life single handedly within a 1 hour consult.
That that's why we call it the Empowerers. Or if
Yes.
well, it's why I do. We need to get this nickname catching on. So
Oh
everyone,
yes. Yes, 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 yes. We need Purna to be um titled the Empowerer so that if anyone were to say that title, we know exactly who we're
who
talking
they're
about.
talking about? Yeah.
Exactly. There's only one. It's Purna.
Hmm.
And speaking, I love us on the cards. Y'all have made a truly like fantastic game here, and you're working on it more. It seems like you're working on more expansions. I wanted to ask you about how did you come to make the decision to go? All right, we've made this game. Now we're going to make more things for this game.
So we actually whittled down
Oh,
all
got
of
you.
Yeah. All the solo play, the polyamory play, the how to do it as a campaign play, or even how to fit into another one of your games. All of this was stuff we wanted in the original game,
Mm-hmm.
but we also wanted to release this game on Christmas, um, because of the holiday themes within, and we decided to be a little kind to ourselves and give
Love
ourselves that
that.
space. And
Pro tip.
yes, another. I mean, it is underrated, but it is an important pro tip. Whenever you can find a way to be kind to yourself, in terms of working, especially when you're setting the goals, do
Yeah.
that. 100% do that. So we
And
put out,
if
yes.
sorry, and if you are incapable of it, get someone who loves you to set those goals.
That's where collaboration very much helps. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot tell you the number of times we have made suggestions for each other that are just basically, um, you don't have to do all 800 tasks today. You can maybe do 200 a day for the next week or so.
Oh my god, I love that.
That's right.
So yeah,
And
yeah,
when our man says that, he's talking about my evil twin, Shmurna. I'm not me.
you have done the same for me. But yes, we want so that we had enough for a complete game, which is what we
Mm-hmm.
released, and now we want to put in all the extra stuff, and we're realizing that the polyamory version especially is going to need some playtesting. It is
Mm.
once you bring that in, it is a slightly less simple and straightforward game.
Yeah.
Even though the rules are mostly map out the same, there are still we want to see how it plays out. So
Mostly
yeah,
just to make sure that the narrative still flows the way that
exactly.
Mm.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
the number of people who, while we were recording the APs that are going to start coming out now, the first one today actually, the number of people who are excited about volunteering to playtest the polyamory version was just
Oh,
it
love
was
that.
great. But yeah, like we are also going to have a if you are a fan of South Asian cinema, we are going to come out with a South
Mm.
Asian cinema expansion so that you get to live your South Asian cinema dreams. This is also a great way, I think, to if someone is like, oh hey, we I've never watched a movie from your South Asian country, and you're like, oh my god, and like immediately your brain is like 10 ideas, and they're like, cool. This is a great way to give them a flavor of the the gamut without overwhelming them with your entire lifetime list of favorites. Um, it's a niche audience, but I'm sure that's where we will make our real money.
Let me
Niche audiences.
dance. Let me dance on a train. Let me declare my undying love while sat on top of a moving train. That is
Hey,
all I wish.
if Venba and Thirsty Suitors are any indication, there is a lot of demand for good South Asian storytelling.
It's true.
Yes, yes. Give me the
But
romance. Give me the camp.
the day we're recording this, Venba comes out with its new recipes. I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
I never
Please go
met
and
that
support
word.
Venba.
Yes,
Folks who watch this channel know that I completed my playthrough close to when it came out. So
it's a
it was
fantastic
great.
game.
It's a great game. Totally made me sob and cry. Don't worry about it.
What I was going to say about the expansions is also going to say that um, I think there's also something to be said for um, bringing on others if you don't
Mm,
necessarily know what to do with a particular topic. If you cannot, uh,
mm,
if if you're not at the stage yet where you need a sensitivity consultant or don't have the budget for them,
yeah.
think about, you know, getting collaborators who have the lived experience that you're looking for so that you can genuinely make something for the people you're targeting with the game.
Yeah.
There are people who we really would love to make games for, and we just have a whole bunch of work and
Mhm.
conversations to have and before we can.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think all of that matters, and the choices and the specific directions that both of you are making with the expansions are incredibly exciting. I for one am looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. I can't wait to check out and review them on TTRPG Learning Spaces. I'm so excited. I truly am. But throughout this conversation, we've kind of touched a lot on very specific experience that the both of you have, especially as South Asian creators, as indie creators, but specifically being those creators located outside of the Western Hemisphere, and a lot of the challenges, whether it comes to like accessibility for players, whether it is other such challenges. I wanted to now kind of like explore a little bit on the topic of supporting non-Western designers. It is a conversation we're having in TGRPG space about what does it look like to decenter the Western voice within TTRPGs. And I wanted to ask the both of you, what are the challenges that you have noticed already so far as a new game design collective located outside of the Western Hemisphere?
I think two or three large ones that come to mind are that you need to put in more work to find your community if you live
Mm-hmm.
outside the Western Hemisphere. Uh, People are less likely, as we've been saying, to know what TTRPGs are,
Yes.
forget actually have had the experience of playing them or the enthusiasm of doing so. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, similarly, you won't have conventions, especially large scale ones, or even
Yes.
small ones. And you don't necessarily tend to have that. Of course, now there are communities that are trying to do this, gaming outfits,
Mm.
big and small. I mean, only small ones exist in India, but like that are trying to do this,
Yeah.
where you get to get some people together and play a bunch of games. But the
Mm-hmm.
efforts are still very much like people spending a chunk of their own money
Mm-hmm.
to try and get a bunch a slightly larger group than usual to have some fun, and
Yeah.
it's definitely nothing on the scale of the conventions, gaming conventions that you see across Europe and the United States.
Mm.
And I think, I mean, similar to the proliferation of media that originates in these places, there's
Mm.
just a lot more you can do when you have access to more media. Like you
Yeah.
don't people who have access to libraries learn to love reading. People who have
Yes.
access to libraries of games are going to have
Mm.
a larger exposure to game mechanics and how
Yeah.
things work in terms of building a structure that people can interact with. What is a
Mm.
dynamic thing? What is just basically going to be you listening to someone talk at you for 3 hours? Like, just getting to know the lay of the land is very difficult when you don't have access to the material. And
Yeah.
accessing material, even online, is not straightforward for if you live outside of the US. And it's a little better with European websites in my own personal experience,
Yeah.
but American websites don't like my cards. They
Mm.
don't like the cards of a lot of people that I know.
Yep.
And honestly, like, I mean, yes, I have friends who live in the States, especially now that I work in TTRPGs, but do I really want
Mm.
to put in their zip code to to buy something on an American website? I really don't.
Yeah.
So I think uh, regional pricing, if that could be made like the standard instead of something that we have to fight for, that would also be great because, obviously $10 in the US means something else than $10 in
Mm.
India and
Yeah.
any South Asian country, in fact,
Yeah, for
means
sure.
something very different. And yeah, so I think just
Yeah.
being cognizant of,
Mm.
yeah, there's so much
There's
that people are cognizant of.
yeah, there's so much, and like you've hit the nail on the head of like kind of in even in your listing of things, how so many aspects of the challenges of decentering Western voices kind of starts from a systemic place. But before we get more into it, I'm kind of curious, Armand, about like your perspectives on what the challenges we've storytelling games has in this regard, being based outside the Western Hemisphere. Do you have any other thoughts?
So I think it's a lot. There's also a lot of small things that
Mm,
really add up that are easy to overlook. The website thing, for example, we have a lot of our personal friends, even our families, who want to buy
mm,
this game and can't do so off of itch.io, which is one of the best place to distribute games because
yeah,
there's
for
not
sure.
really another website that quite has that reach. But at the same time, people in India can't make that purchase, which is a dang shame.
Yeah,
Um, and other things like time zones. To be able to be awake at the same time people are buzzing about a certain subject,
yeah.
or being able to be on an AP or run a game or do an interview. Like you're closer to our time zone, and uh, this is the rare TTRPG related appearance that
Yes.
is has been really really easy for us. Not really mess up our entire days. There are many people who talk about wanting more of an international community in their games, but not making the very basic lengths of even checking, hey, what time zone are you in? Is it possible we can move this maybe an hour earlier so that you are not
Mm,
staying up till 3 a.m.?
yeah,
Just the small things add up. If you're not at the
yeah,
same time, if you're not releasing a game, say at the same time, um, that the biggest audience for TTRPGs in the world is awake,
yeah,
you're gonna have a lot of people missing out. You
yeah,
can't share your game with a local community because the community here in India is just sort of just beginning to find its feet.
yeah,
Um, and if you want to encourage more people, the games are a very expensive shipping away. Even if you can afford to pay for a game
yeah,
at full price, shipping nearly doubles it.
yeah.
And also, just there isn't the like you the sort of cultural practice of what you spend your surplus income on is never been
Mm,
games. So it has never been
that's true.
it has never been games, whether they're board games, which came here earlier than TTRPGs did, and are like we're slowly starting to get some access to some exported games, even though those are also like the they're priced out of a lot of income ranges, but it's just not something that people would think, yeah, sure, I'll spend
Mm,
1% of my income on
yeah,
shipping this thing which I'm already paying a premium for.
a ton of money on. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
in a
Yeah, and
currency that I don't earn in, and
in the paying a
Yeah.
lot in a currency that is most likely going to put your own currency at a disadvantage. And even the conversation around one of the main ways that TTRPGs is sustainable financially for indie designers, crowdfunding. Even in that, there's a lack of access for the major sites like Kickstarter require specific addresses, specific address formats, specific bank accounts, or business setups in order for everything to be seen legitimate, which is another additional challenge that is being faced by game designers, no doubt. I did want to touch on a very interesting thing that Armand kind of pointed out here, the challenge of staying relevant, which is kind of tied into a lot of the things, whether it's time zones, whether it is producing content at a particular time or producing content in a particular way, even in the way that you introduce said content, which makes it really, really difficult. And I kind of want to pick both your brains here as we storytelling games. How have y'all kind of like maneuvered around that challenge of creating this new outfit and making yourselves have that stable foothold and identity and relevancy within a space that favors the West.
Are you telling us we're relevant? Because that would be breaking
That
news.
would that
I
would be
think you
incorrect.
are. In my humble onion, I think so.
So we are, again, we're very early on in what Weave
Yeah.
Games is, and we are not, we don't, we only have a very basic idea of how
Mm,
Weave Games is perceived in the tabletop role-playing space.
yeah.
I know that as individuals, we both have our communities. There's a lot
Mm.
of overlap, obviously, and I know that Purna is immensely popular in this space. Coming
We
to Big
love
Bad
you.
Con, yeah, yeah, oh yes, we do. Coming to Big Bad Con for the first time was a revelation. She was like a celebrity. There.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Uh, um, so we are currently just making and doing stuff we love to do.
Mm,
Aiming for relevancy is not something we are entirely certain we have achieved or know how to do.
hmm.
Um, we just focus more on accessibility. What
I like
makes you
that.
understand our games? What is the easiest way to explain this game to you? And how can we make this game easier for you to play?
Yeah.
You have seen the incredible Excel spreadsheet that Purna has made to make playing Love Is on the Cards even easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, it's not that difficult a game to play in the first place. But this sheet is fantastic.
It's
Another
a
thing,
gorgeous sheet.
gorgeous.
Purna makes me think that I could live the life of an Excel sheet wizard. Um, she inspires me, so I totally understand. No, I love
And
that. I
this
think you
is
said that beautifully. What about you, Purna? What do you think? I know you have thoughts, perhaps.
I think one of the things that is an issue um, when you don't have, aside from a crumbling social media
Hmm.
platform, you don't really have other ways of promoting your game.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of indie creators feel like they are shouting into the void. Um,
Oh yeah.
you will you will post and you will say something about something you're so excited to have finished,
Hmm.
to have articulated what you were thinking, to have
Hmm.
found something that like represents the art maybe, or having gotten a friend to help you out or whatever it is, or paying out of pocket stuff you can afford. And then it's like a drop in an ocean of oceans and you don't
Yeah.
get any kind of engagement. And I think I think part of what is what helps with relevance
Hmm.
is definitely finding your own communities, and shout out to Daisies and Dragons for creating that in India. But um, and I think it's not the only
Hmm.
TTRPG community in India, but it's certainly the largest one and the
Yeah.
one that um, we've had the most interaction with, and we found an incredibly welcoming and supportive and a
Yeah.
safe space, an inclusive one. And
Yeah.
it's so important, especially in these times, to find that community. And
Hmm.
once you find people who share small things that you don't really think about in
Yeah.
common, someone closer in time zone, someone closer in lived experience, I think it doesn't have to be the entirety of your
Hmm.
community, but it really helps to see, like in every other field, that
Hmm.
representation matters. It helps to see people who look like you and think like you, to be like doing things that you enjoy. So
Yeah.
how we want to stay relevant is by doing this, like a mixture of marketing games to people who are on another
Hmm.
continent, because they're the largest market, and also because we don't have to explain what TTRPGs are and
Hmm.
all kinds of stuff, but also to people here who
Yeah.
just have similar lived experiences might actually enjoy games if we don't call them TTRPGs, or if we find something that's more accessible as a name.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think I would like to be thought of as relevant in this space, sure, but as someone with atypical brain chemistry,
Mhm.
I don't think it is the wisest choice to make that a goal. Um,
Yeah.
Simply because you are already like, you're setting yourself up for failure if your goal
Mm.
is relevant in the TTRPG space.
Mm.
Without the resources of a humongous corporation
Yeah.
behind you to market everything you do, or at least a marketing expert who you can fairly compensate for their time and all these kinds of
Exactly.
other things that you have to do. Um, Without those skills on your side, you really can't expect to do all the work of remaining relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Nor should you blame the things that you create and yourself for not being
Mm.
good enough to be relevant. Like, that's
Yeah.
just not the equation. So,
Yeah. I love that. I could not put it more eloquently or better myself. And I think that's an important conversation to have as folks enter the space, folks who have big dreams, big hopes, to focus on the love of creation and the love of community and hope and letting that kind of fuel the creative ventures and the connections that we make. I like that. And I 100% agree, and I'm thrilled at that. As we begin to close out tonight's interview, um, in a quick way, a quick way for the folks at home, the audiences out there from whatever time zone or whatever reaches of the earth that they may sit in, how can they best support uh you all and the things they've got coming up next for We Storytelling Games?
well, we have, as we said, a bunch of expansions for Love is on the Cards that are coming out. Please do check them out if you're interested in playtesting the ones that we are going to playtest. Then please get in touch. We are we don't have a separate handle on Twitter/X
Mm-hmm.
because the thing keeps changing, and who knows when it will crumble into pile of bytes. But yeah, we are. I am on Twitter as at Purna Writes. Um, on-
You can find me on Twitter at Arman Babu, where you can find a link to all of my other stuff, including my Start Playing Games profile, where you can hire me as your own personal GM, and armautomatic.itch.io, where you can find all of the games I've made. To surprise a large number of them completely free, all yours. Go at it, have fun. Um, and yeah, it's also got a link to my Ko-fi. So if you just want to be nice to me with no purchases made whatsoever, you're missing out. But I appreciate it nonetheless.
and for both of us, we both have the our games that we've made under Weave on our itch profiles. Mine
Hmm.
is Una Makes Things .itch.io. I don't have a consistent handle simply because I think of a new random name every time I sign up for a thing, and I wasn't thinking about branding when I did it. So here we are. You can find me online at Buna Writes, which is what I am on Twitter/X. I'm also on itch as bunamakesthings.itch.io. Um, I also have a Ko-fi. I think it works. I don't have any evidence to support that, but it might work. Who knows? Um,
You all should test it right now.
Someone should test it right now.
Go to that Kofi link and
Um,
test it right now. Do it for me.
yeah,
Do it for Purna.
yeah. My website is card. That is CARRD.co. aside from being Weave Games, which we are going to have a whole bunch of exciting things to talk about soon, and we will do that via our Substack that we will also be launching this month. We are also doing a zine of many creators where we get
Mm.
to release the profiles of a bunch of cool creators that we wanted to uplift, and hopefully, this is the first volume of many. Aside from those things that Weave Games is currently talking about and
Mhm.
more stuff that will come up. We also have things that we're doing individually, one of which we are very excited about, which is Not Yet, is a also a duet TTRPG where everybody on this call is contributing to the
All of us are on the team.
call.
Mm-hmm.
As of stretch goal number three, two, and soon there will be more. So Not Yet is a romantic two-player game. You can play it in a couple of hours, and it lets you play out scenes from your story and see when in your life story the fates conspire to bring you and your partner together. Um, it is led by Taylor Navarro. I'm also a designer on the team, and we have some really beautiful art for our cover art by Raya Sarkar. We have Arman Babu acting as editor. We have Arman and Val are both stretch goal writers. And also, we have a couple of other cool stretch goal things coming up. Check it out on Kickstarter. We are a project to love, or Project Kickstarter loves, or something. My friend Chirag, who is one of the co-founders of Faces and Dragons, um, he and I are about to start playtesting a game called Boldly Go Verify, which is a powered by the Apocalypse game, where you play a team of someone's or not somebody's who go out and verify the mission report that a team, the heroes, went and filed about what they got up to. And you just know that something isn't right. And what happens after that is something you'll find out if you agree to play test with us or buy the game when it comes out. Two people on this call are going to be on.
We have to stop working like this. Actually, no, we need to keep working like this.
Val says, as we discuss three more things that we want to do together. Uh, but yeah, so science and sorcery based in Europe is going to be uh, running two events to raise funds for Palestine. Um, the events are collectively known as Play for Palestine, I believe, and you will be seeing more information about that soon on the interwebs. But Val and I are both players and can't wait because Val was the person who told me I should be in APs when I wasn't an AP with him. So I'm very excited to do that again.
One of my games, Even Dragons Are Trampled Before Us, was made for Weave Gave Jam and is a game that lets you, it's a GM-less game about horses fighting off dragon invasion. However, if you missed the GMing experience, my new expansion has you covered with Machinations of the Dragon King, which puts one person in the devious DM seat, planning out the dragon invasion and making everything a little tougher, a little more exciting, and injecting a little more stakes into the stories of our dear heroic horses.
I love that so, so much. Folks, you heard all those things. Please go and click the links in the chat to go and support these lovely, lovely folks and all of their projects. And as we wrap things up, first of all, thank you both for being my remarkable guests here on Dicey Banter. I adore you both, and I can't wait to see where your work takes you and to talk to you more in a future episode on Dicey Banter, no doubt. But as we wrap up, everybody, hi everyone. I'm Valiant Dorian. I've been your host. You can find me all around the internet at Valiant Joiner and also SpiritBear. Please share that lovely treasure hunt I just set you on. And tonight, I've been your talk show host for Dicey Banter. Please know that you can support this show by pledging onto my Patreon. It directly supports me, and the funds go directly into making the show even bigger and even better. You can find me on Saturdays on Transpainer RPG playing the misbeloved twin brother of the Chosen One. That's Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I believe by the time this comes out, the next episode that'll be upcoming will be the episode in which Erika Ishii is one of our guest players. So please come and check us out as we raise money for Palestine. PCRF, I believe, is the charity that we'll be raising funds for during that episode. So please come through, support us. And finally, last but never least, Beast Within, my first ever TTRPG, is currently under development. If you want to come and support its development, please check out the links in chat right now. It is an narrative first action RPG where you play werewolves and get to have a fun time about it in an 80s and 90s grunge sort of setting. And with that, thank you both again for being my guests. We're about to go raid somebody amazing, no doubt. So please do not touch that dial as we raid in and show some Otso Spirit Bear love over to the next channel. And with that, thank you all so much. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.